think a lot of people have already made a video on this, so I'll make this one quick. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was and still is one of the biggest manga franchises in Japan and around the world, and during its peak years, which was around the 90s, when Stardust Crusader defined the way we looked at powers we now know as stands, gaming companies jumped on the opportunity to make games out of this giant successful franchise. The most famous game during this time period was the JoJo fighting game, simply titled JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It was traditional fighting game action that we all know and love, and it had a ton of Part 3 characters and their stands. Later, a revised version called Heritage of the Future was released and had even more characters. Yet, this won't be what we're talking about. We're taking a look at the lesser known yet just as beloved SNES game, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Wait, really? Another JoJo? They just name it that? Not even like a subtitle. Well, whatever. The odd or perhaps interesting part of this game is how completely different it is from future games. Sure, it's 1993 and the most famous format during the time was point and click stuff. Right, whatever. That's for grand adventures that you need to pump out as a video game. I get it. And sure, it makes sense that JoJo would be a fighter or brawler. But the ambition to make JoJo a point and click adventure RPG is interesting. And quite frankly, I think this sort of genre should be explored more with anime nowadays. People always want to make shonen or shonen-esque manga into more fighting game genres. They're always just brawlers. I get where they're coming from, but quite frankly, I'm sick of it all. The cookie cutter fighting game stuff is just kind of boring now. They all look the same. Making the mostly action-oriented manga of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure into a point-and-click RPG is a bold choice, yet does it really work out for this game, for this brand? Well, let's take a look at the game a little bit further. The story hasn't changed much. If you've read or watched Part 3, you'll know what the story is and where everything takes place. You start from Japan, fighting Kakyoin, and end up in Cairo to fight Dio at the very end. The game required you to just move left or right until you can check out more clues or talk to the right NPC, and the combat is fairly complex for a 1993 game. It's got something called the biorhythm system, which sounds like an evil device found in Resident Evil or something, but it just affects how characters fight depending on their state of mind. The more stress they had, the less damage they do. When battle starts, the player chooses a tarot card offered by Dio, and the character will either receive a buff or debuff depending on what he chose. There's two ways to beat an enemy. Either beat them till their HP is down, or insult them and call them cringy and fat and to quit the fanbase. Or just, demoralize them and drain them of MP. MP standing for mental points, and once it's completely drained, the person gives up and is too demoralized to fight. There's also a heavy emphasis on tarot cards in this game. As stated earlier, there's the debuffs and buffs you can get from Dio from each time you start the battle, but there's the tarot option you can do, which allows Avdol to tell you which of your items is lucky, and the prediction move, which pretty much works the same. Finally, there's this one cool move called checking, which allows you to check out the character, and it allows you to perform an action that was inspired by the manga itself, or you could do a guts attack, which is a far more powerful version of attacking. Other than that, there really isn't much to say others haven't already said. The game is an interesting relic of time, and no other RPGs have been made since of the game. Well, unless you count the mobile games, but no, not really. Nobody really counts mobile games. Honestly, I'd love to see the idea be explored again. I'd love to see what a modern JRPG JoJo would look like and play like. I think, honestly, that genre fits JoJo's aesthetic anyways, seeing as how it's not always about the action in the manga, but rather about the story and the mystery behind it. So, I just want to see more of that. As of now, the game has never been fully released outside of Japan, and chances are it never will. It's 26 years old now, and new JoJo games have since been trading crowns around of who's the king of all JoJo video games. Until then, just enjoy the English patch version and find out if this game is all it's cracked up to be.